If you're looking to start a geographic farm or you're looking to market around your listings, around your sales to produce more listing opportunities for your business, then no doubt you're thinking about postcard marketing. But wait, do you have the right plan? You may think postcard marketing is a bygone, it's antiquated, and you'd be wrong. It comes down to, like any kind of marketing medium, how well do you wield the tool? How much do you pour into your postcard marketing to get the return on investment, whether you're starting or leveling up your geographic farm or marketing around your listings and your sales? Postcard marketing is a critical opportunity, but it's high stakes because postcards aren't cheap. They can be cost prohibitive. Your budget becomes a factor. And so knowing the right plan, having the right strategy, approaching it in the right way is everything if you want to leverage success from your postcard marketing. And that's why today's conversation is going to be such a blast, as I'll be joined by an expert interview guest, one of our rockstar coaches who has a long history of success in terms of geographic farming and postcard marketing. And today's episode is going to change your thinking. It's going to raise your thinking about postcard marketing. So welcome to This Week in Marketing. If you're new to the channel, please make sure to tap that big red subscribe button. And also there's a bell right next to it. If you tap that, it will turn on notifications. So whenever we publish videos just like this, you're the first to know, and therefore the first in your marketplace to rip off, duplicate, adapt, and make part of your own approach. So without further ado, let's dive into our show. It's time to talk about postcards, and I said I was joined by a rockstar guest, a rockstar coach in our ecosystem, and that special guest is the one and only legendary Eileen Rivera. Eileen, thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you for talking about one of my favorite topics.
Well, you are the queen of postcard marketing. I mean, there are several folks in our ecosystem who do very well with postcard marketing, but I would hold you in the highest regard in terms of you bring the most creativity and ingenuity and innovation to how you leverage postcards. In the pre-call, we were talking about how, we live in a day and age where video marketing is so prolific, and the level of effort agents bring into their video marketing and their email marketing, but you don't always see agents putting as much oomph into their postcard marketing, but you send out art to your neighborhoods that you serve. And so I want to tap into your brain and pull out the principles and lessons of what agents can take, rip off, and duplicate to improve their postcard marketing, because it is cost prohibitive. And so the stakes are high to be doing it the right way. And I'm sure, as you're a coach as well, when you look at agents who are leveraging postcard marketing, whether it's around listings or geographic farming, what are some of the common mistakes that you've been noticing in terms of other agents' use of postcard marketing?
Well, those are two different plans you just laid out. So
they sure are.
If you're going to do postcards around every one of your just listeds or just sold, then you have to plan that out. Is it a coming soon? Is it an invitation to the open house? Is it a sold postcard? Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, those can be one-offs that you have a system in place to mail. As a coach, I have been hammering my agents on opportunity around every deal they have. Like, don't be a one and done and then go over to the next one. Be one and leverage at least two more deals from that transaction. So that's very targeted marketing, right? Print marketing. Now, if you're going to truly be a geographic farmer, you have to, it's the art and the science. And folks, it starts with the science. You have to plan it out. You have to get all your numbers from your title company. You need to know how much it's going to cost you every month. And you need to make a minimum commitment. Like, if you're really excited about it and you want to do it, and you tell me you only have a 2-month budget, I'm going to tell you we're not doing it. We're not doing it. It's a waste. I'd rather you go out there and knock doors or throw an event. But if you're in it for the long haul and you see an opportunity because you've sold more homes in this particular neighborhood than anywhere else, and people already call you naturally, then you want to leverage that. And the ideal plan for geographic farming is you have at least a 6-month budget and you have a 12-month plan.
Hey, if you're looking to step up your marketing game, then make sure to check out Marketing Pro. It's a series of online courses with step-by-step instruction to walk you through how to step up your game on social media and video, how to leverage email marketing, and how to crush it with Google through your Google Business Profile for ranking in searches and getting found by more would-be customers who want to work with an agent just like you. Right now, the opportunity is at your fingertips to crush it in your marketplace with the right marketing plan. All you need is the right strategy and the right tactics. So click the link in the description to learn more about Marketing Pro and take the courses at your pace. Watch them when you want, as many times as you want, and crush it in your local marketplace. Okay, so 6-month budget, 12-month plan. We're going to get into what should you be sending out, what's your process in terms of how you approached your postcard marketing. I want to slip back to the point you made. You took my bait. I talked about around your listings or a geographic farm. You're like, well, those are two different plans. And I was like, yes, because I think it's often conflated in terms of, oh, postcards are postcards. Well, postcards, that's like saying video is video.
Right.
No, it's all about the message. It's just another marketing medium. And you hit the point perfectly about around listings and around sales. That's more of a 1, 2, 3 punch strategy to elicit the opportunities that may be around the edges of the sale you just had, because we know the adage, when a property sells, 1 or 2 more sell behind it. The question is, who do they remember? And if your marketing isn't strong enough to be memorable, then it's maybe not you. But then there's the idea of geographic farming, which is a long-term commitment. So I'm hearing you say the biggest mistake agents make when it comes to postcards is misunderstanding what level of resolve and commitment they should be bringing with them to the process. Did I paraphrase well?
Yes, yeah, that's exactly. It's critical that they're clear with that, and their ability emotionally and financially, and emotionally in terms of discipline, meets their goal. You can't come up with this pretty plan and you're so excited about 2 postcards go out and now you're running in 4 different directions and it has nothing to do with the farm.
Well, and you made a comment earlier before the recording was on about when you market for business, you get busy and business makes you busy. And so there's also, I think the plan has to also be your commitment to it, because eventually you should start getting listings and opportunities.
Oh, absolutely.
And a lot of agents slip themselves onto the agent roller coaster where all of a sudden they neglect their marketing because they're focused on the business. And this is not the kind of marketing where you can start and stop and start and stop, because you're losing massive momentum, aren't you?
100%. It's a waste of your heart, your energy, and your money. It's all about consistency. Again, we hammer that in over and over and over again, but it particularly applies to geofarming.
It does.
Have to be consistent. To be wildly successful, the single greatest factor is consistency.
Well, so let's talk strategy for a moment. We've already juxtaposed the difference between mailing around listings versus mailing a geographic farm and the commitment differences. Let's just go super high level, 30,000 foot view. Strategically, when you talk about postcard marketing, and I'm using that as an umbrella term, postcard marketing, it's the utilization of postcards in your marketing, whether it's farming or around listings. Super high level, what is the strategy and how do you measure your success? Because you already talked about it could be a long time before you see results. It could be months before results come in. How does somebody measure success when it comes to postcard marketing?
Return on investment. You set goals, you set the plan. How often are you going to mail? What are you going to mail? How are you going to enhance your mailing? Are you going to door knock the community that you're farming to? I certainly hope so. Are you going to shop in the community you're farming to? Or are you going to go to the Starbucks and hang out with your laptop once a week, with your branded shirt on? Those are all subtleties that help you progress at a quicker rate than just because we know a lot of people who have check equity. And while that sounds like a great thing, if they don't engage and get involved in the community and have their personality and themselves in the community, they're not going to get the best ROI that they can get. So it's a combination of both. It's sweat equity and check equity.
That's a great point. We've talked on the show numerous times about the power of multi-channel marketing magic. When you market through multiple channels, it reinforces each respective channel, and therefore it makes the marketing more memorable and has greater effect. Just doing postcards alone is insufficient. I could say the same about just doing open houses is insufficient. It's the multi-channel combination that really reinforces the I see you everywhere effect. Mm-hmm. We've talked about that numerous times before, but it also makes me think of the picture of geographic farming, whereby you plant the seeds, but at some point you've got to go pick the grapes off the vine, so to speak, or they wither away and those opportunities go away. Mm-hmm. And I suppose that would manifest you at the coffee shop, hanging out with the locals, you door knocking, you putting on events, you getting involved in the HOA. There's got to be some kind of a, how do you actually pluck the opportunities that you have fostered through your nurturing efforts of geographic farming?
Yeah, I want to mention one thing because we have a broad audience, right? That follows you. I'm at the top of the list. And the first thing you have to do, very, very first thing before you even start geofarming, is you need to know the community. So what I teach when you're looking at a geofarm is I tell them, and I hope that these terms translate for the country because I'm in California, but we do a map search, we put a line around it, we send an email to title and say, how many SFRs are within these parameters? Now I have a number. Then I create an Excel spreadsheet and it has every year for the last 10 years. I don't want you to go down a rabbit hole. For every year, I want you to go into your MLS and from January 1st to 12/31 of that year, how many total homes sold in that neighborhood? And you do it for 10 years. So you have an overview of how much turnover there is. You immediately become an expert beyond most agents that even know the area because now you have data. And you can leverage that data. Obviously, if you picked a farm where there's very, very little turnover, as your coach, I'm going to tell you, no, doesn't make sense. I know you like the neighborhood, go visit it. This is not where the money opportunity is. So you want to look at turnover, you want 10 years of history. And then if you're going to start mailing, I'd like the first 6 cards designed before the first one goes out. Because with any luck at all, if you do what I'm coaching you to do, you're going to get busy. You're going to get a deal.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, I didn't get a postcard out this month. Not acceptable. Plan ahead, plan for success.
So what's a acceptable ratio of turnover? Let's say there's 1,000 homes in a specific geographic area. What's a benchmark?
I will not answer that question to anyone without knowing what the facts of the area are because if it's only 5% and you live close and there's $7 million houses, you may want to go after it, right? Okay. 5% and there are 250 condos, it's not a worthy investment necessarily. You have other options. So it's understanding the numbers of everything in that geographic area and then asking yourself and your coach, okay, with this turnover, is it worth it? Is it worth it? And then that's why you have to do the research before you send out a single postcard. It's critical.
I would assume there's other data points too, like is there a dominant agent? Because if there's, 30 sales a year and 15 are with so-and-so agent, then that already cut your market share potential by 15 sales. 100%. What are some other hard and fast rules you would generally advise an agent to know and consider before engaging in a farm?
History, so the 10-year history, understanding who has market share, if they're onesie twosies, really studying all those last year closed properties, like, oh, is Jason double ending everything? Like, I know he's a dominant agent, but is he double ending everything? Or, oh my gosh, I can't believe that 5 of the houses that sold on this block were out of area agents. Right? You want to look at all of that because you're going to see stumbling blocks, but you're going to find opportunity as well. Right? So I have 2 clients that are specifically farming, not a geographic area, it's a wider area to anyone who's owned their home for more than 30 years.
Okay.
Because my theory is if you own your home for 30 years or longer, chances are you don't know anything on it, number one. Number two, if the average person buys their house between the ages of 28 and 35, these people are more likely to be coming up on a life change. For example, moving to the desert, moving closer to adult children and grandchildren, moving to a over 55 community, right? They don't need a 3,000 square foot house anymore. And they have a boatload of equity. So some of my folks demographically farm.
Smart. It seems like your approach to geographic farming, or really to postcard marketing, is really on the foundation of data. Having the data, how would you describe, because I have my own theories and assumptions, How would you describe your approach to your process, your creative process, when it came to your mailers and your postcard strategy? Because I have this theory that a lot of agents, and I don't mean to be negative sounding, a lot of agents are already busy. You talked about check equity versus sweat equity. They want to throw some cash at it. They want a proven postcard strategy with boilerplate templates that could be sent out to a farm, and they're not overly involved in the process. I want to hear how you approach it creatively.
Um, I tuned into what caught my eye. I was so tired of the just listed, just sold. And I think my first creative round years ago with geofarming was as a thank you to, I don't know, a couple dozen of my clients one year. I hired a photographer, and right before the holidays, I gave them family photos. They were appointments and they came. Well, it was really easy, and I didn't think of it ahead of time. I just found myself there. It was really easy, Jason, when you came for your photo shoot with your family and you went home with a thumb drive of all these fabulous photos, to say to you, Jason, would it be okay if I used the family photo in a postcard and added your testimonial to it? Thanks again, by the way, for giving me that review on Zillow, for giving me that review on Google. Would it be okay if I added the photo in the review and shared it in the neighborhood? Not one person said no.
Wow.
And I had old people, right? So talk about demographic versus and married with geographic. I had an old couple. They must have been in their 80s. They were lovely. They looked like actors because they were so cute with their white hair and their wrinkles, and how much you could see how much they loved each other. That one on a postcard. And then I have one that I share with clients often that I call the like Ralph Lauren family. They all match. The girls had bows in there, like they look like something out of a magazine. The postcards that went out from that shoot were intentionally as diverse as my clientele, age, sex, persuasion, whatever. Like my cards were real people that represented this community. So I feel like the neighborhood instantly knew who I was because these are my people.
Okay, so already out of the gate, you have a different approach of geographic farming is what you described as a commitment. Postcards are simply the instrument you play, but your commitment is to that crowd, that audience, that arena. Talk to us about where you find inspiration in terms of the types of postcards you would send out.
I'm tuned into what has an impact on me.
Okay.
Right. So everybody listening to this at some point has watched a commercial on television and laughed. Think about how famous Super Bowl commercials are. You, Jason Pantana, and Tom Ferry have probably walked through more airports than anybody I know on the planet. And how often are you're probably like racing, but posters in the airport, billboards on the freeway, something you're watching on television. These are people just like us. If you find yourself responding to something, take a minute and think about it. It's like, okay, this has nothing to do with real estate, but I really like this approach. How can I tie it into a postcard? Wow. So the basics, go ahead.
There's so much there. A couple of thoughts. One, the familiar. People respond to the familiar. And if you have the ability to adapt a campaign, I'm thinking about there's a postcard strategy Tom has talked about numerous times. It's the check your home's value, and the postcard is simply a QR code. And the idea came from a Super Bowl commercial. And the response was incredibly high. I think it's got a level of, what is this? It invokes curiosity, but I also think it appeals to the familiar. And if you see specific types of campaigns, billboards, something along those lines, especially if it's local and you can adapt it to a real estate context, you're already tapping into whatever mind share that campaign has already generated in your consumer base that you're reaching. I think that's super smart. I think it's innovative, but continue. You weren't done. I interrupted.
Well, no, that's okay. And for your audience only, I'm working on one right now. That story you just told is perfect. Where I'm doing a QR postcard.
Yep.
And the text on it is, Let me know if you disagree.
I love it. And they scan the code and it goes to a specific web page, I assume.
Uh-huh. And I get the
May I ask
information.
what am I agreeing or disagreeing with? I'm guessing it's my home's value.
Yeah.
That's super good. Now, are you taking me to like a Zestimate or where are you sending me to?
I'm sending you to one of the companies that we recommend and use. Yeah, it's a home value page. They'll scan the QR code and it'll take them to it'll give them something about the house, and then we'll show up with a complete report. But again, my hope is that I get more scans just because people like being challenged to be contrarians.
Yeah. Well, so it's interesting. I remember I listened to Chris Voss talk. I think it was Chris Voss. He talked about going for the no, specifically going for the no. So let me know if you disagree. It's a different angle, and there's so much about that. I'm interested to know how that performs. Will you let us know?
I absolutely will.
All right. So you're taking inspiration from outside of real estate. You're not in the pond, you're in the lake of all marketing, and it includes TV commercials, posters, billboards. It could be, I don't know, chalk art that you see out in front of a restaurant, anything that strikes your fancy. And here's the point I want to raise to those who are watching and listening right now. When I look at our ecosystem of coaching clients who are crushing it with video, for instance, there's not one person who's crushing it who's not getting their hands dirty, so to speak, in terms of being engaged in the process. When I think about a Glenda Baker, for instance, Glenda, whenever she's struck by an idea, oh, I got to write it down. She's always capturing the idea because she sees through the lens of how can I use this for a video?
Yep.
What stops everybody who's engaged in postcards from thinking the same way? You think that way, where you are struck by inspiration, but the instrument you play is not a guitar, it's a postcard. And so you automatically transpose the idea to your medium of choice when it comes to marketing. And there's that level of personal involvement. I've never seen anybody truly crushing it in any kind of a marketing capacity who is not in some way, shape, or form getting themselves involved in the process. Thoughts?
Agreed. Well, how do we get them to do it? You're doing it right now. They're going to be listening to you, and you're sharing the examples, and we're talking. And again, you have to. Some people aren't artists, right? Some people are just brilliant producers, CEOs,
Sure.
and they hire an artist, right?
Sure.
They should hire an artist, or they're really creative people, which I am, and I stink. I won't say the other word. I was going to say, like, ops is not my strength. So I hired an ops manager when I was running my brokerage. Whoever you are listening to this, live in your strength. Whatever your strength is, live in that, because DISC, if you're really high and you're really good and you have discipline and you listen to Jason, you listen to Tom, and you listen to me, you're going to succeed in this business and make enough money that you can hire people for the things you don't like.
That's right. That's right. That's good stuff. It's like you coach for a living, isn't it, Eileen?
Yes.
It's good stuff. I think the one unassailable truth is, whether you're an artist or an entrepreneur or an operator, whatever your profile is in terms of how you conduct yourself, I agree that you play to your strengths, but to do that requires unwavering self-awareness. You must know where your strengths are so that you can fill in where you have voids. All right, now I want to jump into your process. Let's talk like tactics for a little bit here. I've got a couple more questions that I really want to get through. And the last one I want to get to that we'll save for the end is, what are the top headlines you have in mind? But I'll save that for those who watch until the end.
Okay, all right.
Talk to us about the system of farming of postcards. What's the optimal frequency of sending?
The optimal frequency is, a lot, right? It's a lot. So the question becomes, if you're going to start farming next week, what's your budget that you have in place for the next 6 months? Okay. I have a fabulous coaching client in Hawaii who wanted to start geofarming, very, very successful, has never geofarmed before. We laid out the plan, and he did 4 postcards in 4 weeks.
Okay.
A lot. 4 postcards in 4 weeks, because my theory is, if financially you can do it, by the time they get your 5th postcard, they go, oh my God, Jason again. And guess what? You just won. You have market share in their brains when they just look at the postcard and say, Jason again. So he did 4 consecutive in a week. Then he did every other week. And in his case, now he's only going to 1 month, 1, second month, 2. So it's 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 for the rest of the year.
Okay. Well, and I suppose another variable is what other marketing is layered with your strategy? What else are you doing? If you have a billboard at the front entrance, for instance, you're getting all that frequency of impressions every single day over and over and over again. It's interesting. Have you heard of the rule of 7 in advertising before?
Oh, I know I've heard you talk about it, but remind me, please.
So the rule of 7 is a generic principle in marketing. It says it takes 7 times of hearing the same message for a customer to take action on it.
So I should have told you 7 instead of 6.
Well, I was going to say whether it's 7 or whether it's 6 is debatable. The major principle here is frequency to get remembered. Oh, they're not going to see it the first time, the second time, the third time. It's going to take a few times of reminding them. I'm curious, did your client send the same postcard every week, or was it a sequence of varied messages?
It was a sequence of varied messages, but one side was the same. Because
what is your thought process on sending the same postcard or sending the same postcard every so often?
I think that you have to send something that's consistent with the image and the branding. And then I think every so often, I do it 4 to 6 times a year. I send what I call as a disruption piece.
Oh.
I refer to it as a disruption piece because 85% of the pieces I send out, as soon as they pull stuff out of their mailbox, they know it's Eileen. Right? Whether it's a just listed, a just sold, a testimonial, because of the size, because of the colors, because it's my farm, they know it's me. So once a quarter, I want them to pull something out that doesn't get thrown away, that they go, what is this?
Now, with that in mind, you made mention of there's some brand association. You see some similar overlapping, repeated images or logos. What are the most important elements on a postcard? What needs to be there?
Well, it depends a little bit on the postcard, right? If it's just sold, I got tired of doing just sold. What needs to be there is the story, the credibility. I was successful in helping this family. But when I got tired of them, I started replacing them with testimonials from the family. So now I had a photo of the people instead of the house. Okay. I had one family that was moving out of area that they allowed me to use an image of their baby. Right. And a great message of, grateful that this is where I started. I'm taking mom and dad to Virginia.
Okay. So
stuff like that.
So it sounds like from your experience, one, images matter. You put a profound ranking status on images.
Yes.
But what's interesting is you are a very people-centric person. You prefer people images versus houses. And I got to tell you, I look at a lot of postcards and I often saw, this is me being cynical. I'm like, sometimes I'm like, do we not know what white space is? Because they're just littered with stuff. And so I guess I could also rephrase the question and say, what are the most important things not to include on a postcard? Because I believe a lot of times the message gets drowned in there being just a littering of too many words and images and graphics and whatnot.
Yeah, I love what you just said, because the thing is, even though we do just listeds, just solds, especially to get established in a farm, if I just sold your house and it's in my neighborhood and I'm sending a postcard to the neighbors, they already know what your house looks like. Right? They drive by your house every day on the way to work. So while I want to make note of the success story, it's much more effective to use a photo of you and your beautiful family. And for me to say thank you. I never come, I shouldn't say never, maybe once a year. I never come off in print as braggadocious. Number one, it's not my style, so it's pretty easy for me, but it's like, I want them to see you.
Because you're the guide and they're the hero. Donald Miller, Hero's Journey.
Yes, exactly.
Let me get your thoughts on this. So I do a lot of presentations and I make a lot of slides. And I subscribe to the teaching of Nancy Duarte. She's great slides and presentation tips and advice and training and so forth. She has a few rules that I've always subscribed to. One of her rules is your audience should be able to absorb the message of the slide in less than 3 seconds. Because if it takes them longer than 3 seconds, they're no longer listening to you. they're reading the slide?
My feeling is the image is what is the incentive for them to read the story.
Mm.
Right? In this case versus when you're presenting and teaching to a big, it's like
Sure.
Image is the hook, and then they'll read the story.
So we should layer it. So then we can say the mistake we see in postcards a lot is you don't see the hierarchical weight of image, headline text, body text. You just see a whole bunch of headlines. Is that a fair characterization?
I have a big postcard I did an oversized postcard that the front of it got a ton of attention. All it said was, what if? That what if is what made them turn it around and read the paragraph.
All right, final question. You ready for it? It's the one we've all been sitting on the edge of our seats waiting to ask. When you look at the marketplace now, you've already dropped a lot of great headlines and, oh, that's a clever idea, just a lot of stuff. What are one or two headlines or approaches an agent could consider taking now that's likely to have ubiquitous impact in their postcard marketing, regardless of where they are?
I have to think about that one for a second. I would say challenge your thinking. Don't look at other people's just listed and just sold and come up with something. Tune into what you have a reaction to. And if you're in a relationship, part of a family, a marriage where you have different opinions, ask the other person. I don't care if you don't like what they say. That's a different perspective. When you're doing marketing and farming, you can't just design things from what you like and what you know, because the family members that disagree with you are more like your clients than they are like you. So take that temperature reading. Ask people outside of the industry. We get so lazy and complacent. And again, one of you, Tom, somebody coined it, rip off and duplicate, right? We used to talk about that all the time, right? Oh, look at that great marketing. Okay, go ahead. You can rip off and duplicate it, R&D it, right? Well, yeah, sometimes there's some appropriateness for that, but don't limit yourself to one opinion. Your farm, whether it's 500 or 5,000, is a diverse group of individuals. You want, as best you can, to be neutral enough and clever enough that you get engagement from it. That it's different. Somebody stops and looks at it.
It's good stuff. This has been a super fun episode, and I could talk to you all day about this stuff. Some of the takeaways where you're challenging thinking and assumptions is in how you approach the craft of postcard marketing. It is your microphone to communicate with your audience. Your audience is your farm.
Yes.
I think a lot of agents could breathe new life into their postcard marketing efforts if they looked at it with that level of what an opportunity it is to market to these neighbors versus what can I get from them? It's what can I give to them? And over time, that will pay you dividends in listings and referrals and opportunities. Coach Eileen, you're the best. Thank you so much for being on today. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your experience, and your ideas and innovation. What a fun, we'll have to do part 2 of this. We'll have to go back in and do more postcard marketing. I want to know, for those watching and listening in the comments, what were your top takeaways? What changed your thinking today concerning postcard marketing? And what are your questions so we can line up episode number 2 of Postcard Marketing? Until next week, this is This Week in Marketing.